All right, all right, all right. Let's get this party started. Before we get started, let's make sure if you can hear me, drop a one in the chat. That way I know you can hear me okay. Then we can get to rocking and rolling on this. I want to make sure you guys can hear me before I just start talking forever and not, and you guys can't even hear me. Drop a one in the chat if you can hear me. If you're on Facebook or YouTube, okay, cool. We're good there. TikTok, nobody's coming on yet. I guess nobody likes me. Thanks, Josh. I appreciate it. Let's trying to find a quote here from Marcus Aurelius. Here's a good one. Start the live with. Do not live as if you still have 10,000 years left. Your fate hangs over you while you are still living. While you still exist on this earth, strive to become a genuinely good man. Marcus Aurelius. If you guys want a little book here, The Essential Marcus Aurelius. It's got some good quotes in there. Anyways, let's talk about sales. Let's talk about effective communication. If you guys listen to the podcast, the drop this morning, sales secret number 3, effective communication, or what was the title? I already forgot the title. Communication is everything. If you guys listen to that podcast that dropped this morning, drop a 2 in the chat. I just want to kind of get an idea of how many people actually have listened to that. That's where we're going to be basing this live off of. We're going to go a little deep dive into some of these things. And if you guys have any questions about communication, throw them in the chat as well, and we will have a discussion about it. So don't be scared. Don't be shy. Post your questions. Post your thoughts in the chat. Thanks, Josh. What'd you think about that podcast? What'd you think about the one that dropped this morning? Curious to hear your feedback on that. So in that podcast, if you haven't listened to it yet, I talk about why communication is everything. And really most of your problems that you have in your construction business, whether it's with customers, whether it's with vendors, whether it's with your employees, most of your problems that you have are because of lack of effective communication. See, for whatever reason, and I haven't quite put my finger on this yet. I'm trying. I'm trying to figure out what's causing this and how we can reverse engineer it to eliminate it. But for whatever reason, we believe that over communication, or really effective communication, is micromanaging, right? So what really is effective communication, we see it as micromanaging. I don't want to micromanage my people because I don't want to be micromanaged. And so what do? We don't effectively communicate. So here's what we do. We hire a person, we hire a new guy. He's got 5 years experience in construction. He's been building homes. He's a carpenter, whatever your trade is. He's been doing it for 5 years, and he's been a lead guy for another contractor. And so you hire him thinking, "Oh man, it's great. I hired this guy. Now I can get off the tools. Now I got somebody I can rely on." He comes on, and your onboarding process is, "Okay, welcome to to my business. Um, Tomorrow we're going to start on this job for the Smiths, and you're going to be doing your job there, and everything's going to be great." And then tomorrow comes, and it's like, "Okay, have at it. I'll check up with you in 8 hours and see how you're doing. I'll check up with you at the end of the day and see how you're doing." So like right there from the start, you just basically set him up to fail. Well, I don't want to micromanage him though, Brad. He knows how to do it. It's like, no, he doesn't. He doesn't know how to do it. He doesn't know how to do it the way you want it done. He doesn't know how to do it the way you expect it to be done. He doesn't know how to do it the process that you've created, right? Because you don't want to micromanage him. But that's not micromanaging, guys. Micromanaging is you sitting on the job site and saying, "Okay, now go over there and pick up that board. Now take it to the saw. Now cut it to 40 inches. Now go back over there and grab the nail gun and install it." That's micromanaging. saying this is how we do things. This is our standard operating procedure. This is the outcome that we expect. At the end of the day, when the job is complete, my definition of done is this. This is what I expect of you to complete this project. And none of us do that. We just think that they're going to read our minds and then all of a sudden do it exactly the way that we do it and we want them to do it. And then we go to the store and we order materials, and because Home Depot does it one way, we assume that Lowe's is going to do it the exact same way. And so when we go and order, you know, I don't know, I'm trying to think of something, you order a lumber package from Lowe's or Home Depot, and you go to the opposite store and you order a lumber package, and they don't do it the exact same way. And then we get mad because it's like, man, this is common knowledge. This is common sense. I don't understand it. It's common sense. Just because you went to the building supplier and they stacked your deck package reverse order so that your posts are on top and then your joists are underneath that and then your deck boards are on the bottom, does not mean that Lowe's and every other place is going to do it the exact same way, because that's not the way that they've done it. And so we make an assumption about, well, one person did it this way, so everybody's going to do it this way. And then when it doesn't, when the material package shows up and it's reverse stacked, you get pissed off because you expected it to be stacked the right way. And now you're going to spend an extra 2 hours digging through everything and reversing it. That is 100% your fault. I don't know how to sugarcoat this because I'm not sugarcoating it. When stuff doesn't happen in your business the way you want it to happen, it is your fault because you did not effectively communicate the way you expected it to happen. You did not set the standard. You did not set the expectation. You did not have operating procedures that people can follow. You did not communicate effectively. Yet this is the number one thing that plagues contractors on a daily basis, and they get so frustrated. You just can't find good help anymore. Nobody wants to work. Nobody wants to do this. Nobody can follow directions. Blah, 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 blah. And it's like, no, guys, you're not effectively communicating what needs to happen. And the reason that you use to justify in your brain, or we use, because I've done this too, is I don't have enough time. I'm, quote, too busy. I'm too busy to write out a 20-word text that explains in detail where the specific material that's being used on that job is. I don't have enough time to, quote, write out a 20-word text. So I'm just going to write out a 4-word text instead because it's going to save me half of a second. And then when you show up to the job site 3 hours later and they use the wrong tile or the wrong material because they didn't understand your message and you get pissed off because they're too stupid, the reality is you should be pissed off at yourself because you did not effectively communicate that with people. And this podcast that I dropped today is about sales, but this goes across the board to all aspects of your business. So now as we talk about it, how it relates to sales, the same thing happens. The exact same thing happens. We don't fully communicate to our clients what they need to know. And we just expect them to know because, I've been doing this for 20 years and you should just know that this is how processes happen, even though that particular customer has never hired a contractor before in their life. They've never studied contracting. They don't know anything about contracting, but we just expect them to know. We just expect them to know that, payment is due on Friday, even though it's nowhere that we've told them or nowhere that we have, it's not in our contract or anything. And so when Friday comes at the end of the day and the customer's not there, we get pissed off and we call them and say, hey, where are you at? We need to get paid today. We need to get our money today. The customer's like, what do you mean? I'm on my way out of town. I'm not going to be back till Monday. Well, no, you're supposed to pay us today. Right? but you didn't ever communicated that at all to your clients. Everybody knows that you pay on Friday. I mean, it's just common sense. Everybody knows that you're supposed to pay the contractor on Friday. No, we don't. Nobody knows. Your clients don't go to customer school. They don't graduate high school and then go get a undergraduate degree, a bachelor's degree in how to understand contracting so that your contractor can job can be easier and what you should be doing and expecting for your contractor when they're doing your project. Your customers don't go to contractor school. They don't go to customer school. They don't know how to be customers. So it's your job to educate them how to be a good customer. And if they've done work with other contractors who are not very good at communicating, then it's your job to explain to them the expectations of working with you. And when you do this, you know what happens? You don't have the problems at the end of the job where you told them that you charge by the hour, but you didn't verbally tell them that if it's after hours that you have a double time rate and you hide it somewhere in your contract on page 3, section 34 subparagraph A. It says if we work past 5 p.m., then we charge double time rate, and that's charged to you at the end of the job. And then when the customer comes into the job and you say, "Hey, we had 10 hours of overtime. You owe us an extra $500." What do you mean? Well, it's in our contract. It says it right there on our contract. If we overtime, well, we didn't see that. Well, you signed the contract, didn't you? I mean, it sounds so ridiculous the way I'm explaining it. Yeah, that's exactly what happens over and over and over because we just expect people to know these things. And if you're hiding behind your contract because you don't know how to talk to people and tell them this is what's included, this is what you should expect working with us, then you can't get pissed off if they don't read the contract. Nobody reads contracts, guys. I don't care if you're supposed to, nobody does. It's just the reality of it. So if you just give them piece of paper and expect them to read all the information that you don't want to share, that's on you. This is why you get in trouble. Contracts are designed to help you after something bad happens. I use it as a prenup. Your contractor is a prenup to your marriage to them because that's what it is when you work with a customer, you're marrying them. You're getting in bed with them for however long the project lasts, especially if it's a big project. If it's a 6-month project, you better make damn sure that it's the person you want to get in bed with for the next 6 months. And that contract is there as a prenup so that when things go wrong, the prenup says, this is what we will do. This is how we will arbitrate the situation. This is who's responsible for this, and this is who's responsible for that. That's what contracts are designed to do. The contracts are not designed to do the talking for you. They're not designed to tell the customer everything that they should know because you don't want to tell them those things. I've done over 2,500 jobs in my business that I had. 11 years, I did over 2,500 jobs for more than 900 different customers. I had less than 6 people not pay me, and about 40% of those jobs, of the 2,500 that I did, I had no contract. Now, I'm not suggesting that you do that. I'm not saying it's smart. I'm just telling you that out of 2,500 jobs, I had 6 people that didn't pay me, and I had about 4 people who didn't agree with the billing at the end, but we still worked out of a payment arrangement. So less than 10 people out of 2,500 jobs had a problem. That's because effective communication is what stops all these things from happening. You don't really need to have a contract if you know how to communicate with people. Should you have a contract? Absolutely. You should 100% have a contract. And really, by state law, it's required in order for it to be a valid transaction. But what I'm saying is, from a communication perspective, you don't need a contract if you know how to communicate with people. If you are honest and you have integrity and you know how to communicate, very rarely will you have a problem on a job that can't be solved with a simple conversation. So you have to make sure that you know how to effectively communicate with people. It is the single biggest skill that you can have that will fundamentally change your life in all areas of your life. It will change your life with your spouse. It will change your life with your kids. It will change your life with anybody you come across with in your daily activities. It will help you whenever you're dealing with people who are angry, who are in a state of, heightened temper. It will help you in all areas of your life, employees, customers, vendors, everywhere. And it's the one thing that nobody wants to do. Nobody wants to learn how to communicate. Well, Brad, all I got to do is get in front of them. All I got to do is get in front of them, and then they love me, and I sell them with my greatness. That's not communication, guys. It's not effective communication. I'll take a break here. Ryan says, Hammer and Grind is awesome. This has helped us identify and navigate potential difficult customers and help us focus more on good customers over tire kickers that consume our time. Appreciate it, Ryan. He's in my sales accelerator course. It's helped him with sales. AJ Knight says, I have a gutter company. Sales are difficult because nobody cares about their gutters unless they have foundation problems. AJ, that may be true, but I would challenge that belief around that. Um, you just got to make sure that you're providing that they understand the right value. Like, why are gutters important, right? If you're educating your customers as to why gutters prevent foundation problems, then you're getting ahead of the problem instead of on the backside of it where they're calling you because they have foundation problems. So all of your marketing should be around why gutters are so important and how it helps save the integrity of your house, how it prevents foundation issues, how it prevents mold issues, how it prevents blah 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 blah. So all of your encompassing marketing should be around why having the right gutters and why they have to be installed correctly can actually save you thousands and thousands of dollars in the life of your house. Be an educator around the gutters. Ponce de Leon says, "What's the deal with bathroom remodeling and permits?" I have no idea what you mean there. Angie, our customers have to initial all of the bullet points. That's good, Angie, but you still need to actually communicate that. See, that's initialing parts of the contract is a good practice to do. But the reason why that has come about is because at some point in time, people used a contract. They didn't make sure the customer knew what it was. The customer didn't read it. And then something went south. And then when they came back and said, well, it's in your contract, the customer got pissed off because they didn't read it, which was their fault. But you're basically saying to the customer, you're incompetent. This is 100% your fault. So I'm not doing anything to fix it. In reality, it's the contractor's fault for not making sure they understand those things. So I don't have a problem with initialing, next to the contract on bullet points, but it's not like you should still be going over those things with them. Paul says, how about a simple agreement? How do you feel about that? That's what I had, Paul. My clauses for my contracts fit on one page. There was not very many clauses. See, the other thing that a lot of contractors want to do is they want to put every single clause in there in case it happens. In case it happens. I've had people say, "Hey, do you have a clause for, um, if you lose your job in the middle of the project and you can't afford to make the final payment? Do you have a clause for that?" And I'm like, "What? Has that ever happened before?" Well, no, it's never happened, but I just want to have it in there. Then why are you adding crap to your contract that's never happened before? What's the point? I mean, you could have 16 pages long of clauses that protect you in case in case it happens, even though it's never happened before. A lot of us we want to protect ourselves from the unknown, the what ifs. The what ifs. I'm telling you right now, guys, if you learn how to communicate, those what ifs, they come, you deal with them, and they go, and your contract is never needed. That's what effective communication is. Like 99% of you don't understand what effective communication is. When you have an irate customer who's acting in a crazy way and you don't know how to talk to them, and then you like hide behind your contract, that's your fault. That's your fault. You're not communicating clearly with them. When your customer is expecting you to show up at 8 o'clock every single day, but you never told them what time you're going to start, that's your fault for not telling them. It's not their fault for assuming that's what you're going to do. You see this? You see how this stuff works? We expect customers to be the perfect customer, but we do zero effort to educate them on how to be the perfect customer. How many of you have blog posts, articles, or videos explaining to your customers what they can expect to happen on the first day you show up? How many of you have blog posts or videos that tell you how customers can have the greatest experience? How many of you have videos or blog posts that tell the customer how to prepare for you to show up for the first day of work? I'm going to venture 99% of you don't have those. Yet 99% of you should have those. I had a blog post that says how to prepare for your remodel, and it gives tips in there of what to do. For example, in there, it said, let's, here's an example. If we're going to be walking down a hallway, a specific hallway to get to your project, and you have a antique table there with an antique vase from your great grandmother, which is priceless, it would probably be a good idea to remove that vase out of that location during the length of the project so that we don't accidentally knock it off. Now, that's not saying that we're incompetent. That's telling them how to prevent things from happening by accident. We also tell them if there's things on the wall that they don't want to fall off, they should remove them prior to us showing up on the first day of work. Little things like that. Now, we still go in there and we still check the wall and remove the items. We would still go there, and if we saw an expensive vase, we would ask them, "Hey, is this, can we move this?" Yeah, and then we would move it for them if they haven't done that. But the blog post was sent out a week ahead of time before we started the project, and it said, "This is what you should do before we show up." And then I put a little rider in there that I stole from a rock band, and I cannot remember which band it was. There's a very famous rock band. I don't know. I don't remember who it was, if it was Guns N' Roses or somebody like that, that would put a rider in there that they only wanted. They had to have a bowl of M&Ms in the green room, and they could only have, or they would remove all of the brown M&Ms. So they had to have a bowl of M&Ms, and all of the brown M&Ms had to be removed from the bowl. Now, it got around that they were just divas. Like, what a bunch of divas that request to have M&Ms and all of the brown M&Ms removed. But the reason they did that on purpose is because that rider was buried in the bottom, like in the middle and the very bottom of their contract. And they knew that if they showed up, and one, if there wasn't M&Ms, or two, if it had brown M&Ms, that they did not do what they were supposed to do. And if they didn't get this minor detail right, then the chances are other things were not done right as well. So that's why you need to make sure that you're educating your people, on the clients, on how to do business with you. So what I did is in my I got distracted for a second. In my blog post at the very bottom, I said, if you want to, I don't remember how I worded it, but it was basically, if you want, if you, I don't remember how I worded it, but it was like, if you want to have, if you want to make our guys happy, or if you want to have happy people, or in a way, and it was wrote in a playful way. I'm just not doing it justice. But basically, it was like, if you make us chocolate chip cookies or make us cookies, then we're going to be really happy and want to work hard for you. It was something to that effect. written in a playful way. And I'll be damned that 50% of the time we would show up to the job site, there would be a plate of cookies on the counter for us that they made for us. And that told me, one, that they read the actual art, they read the blog post, but also we programmed them. And then, maybe halfway through the project, they'd make cookies again. Either way, my guys are happy because they got freaking cookies. So they're starting the project in a good mood. They've already done all of the pre-work that we asked them to do, like remove all of the things from underneath the cabinets and get all of the breakage stuff out of the way. I've programmed them. I've taught them. I've taught my customers how to do business. Now, do you think that them doing those things like ahead of time is going to make their experience better, or it's going to make their experience worse? Right? Me asking them or telling them this is what you should do ahead of time to have the best experience possible. Do you think it made their experience better or it made it worse? Well, the answer is always it made it better. So this is how you can train your potential customers or your customers how to do business with you and how to get a good experience. The same applies to your employees, right? On the flip side of that, you have procedures that say, hey, before you start doing demo, the first thing you need to do is go on the other side of the walls and make sure that anything that's on the wall is taken down. Because everybody knows when you're banging on the wall, the other thing on the other side of the wall falls off. So if they have, a picture that's very, very important that falls off and breaks, or a mirror or something that's irreplaceable, and you break it on day one, you've really just put yourself in a very bad position for the rest of the project. This is all effective communication. Like procedures, checklists, systems is part of the effective communication process. Showing up on day one with your team and saying, okay, guys, here's what we're doing. First thing you need to do is you need to put down the runners. Then you need to put up the plastic poles on the walls. And then you need to take the stuff off the walls on the other side. And then you're going to start doing demo. And then you're going to do this and this and this and this. And you're just telling them what all needs to be done. And nothing is written out. Nothing is in a form. There's no checklist. There's no procedures. If you think that is how successful contracting businesses operate, you don't have a successful contracting business, because it should be a piece of paper or a digital format on a iPad or something where they pull it up and it's, hey, here is the operating procedure for demo day. First thing we got to do is we got to do all these things. Everything should be already written down. It shouldn't be you showing up to the job and telling them each step of the way. If that's what you're doing, that is why they rely on you to tell them what to do each step of the way, because that's what you're doing. You've trained your employees to rely on you for each step of the way. That's the back end of effective communication. It's making sure people know what they're supposed to know. It's getting the information to the right people ahead of time. That's what effective communication is. So Paul says that's funny. I know you're talking about my chocolate chip cookies. Um, yeah, Angie, I figured that's what you were talking about. Going over having them initial. It's not a bad thing to do. Like I don't have a problem with you having them initial at all. But I think you can even have a successful business without having them initial it. That's basically what I was saying. If you communicate effectively. Yeah, Cody, you're welcome on that. So guys, listen, I'm going to keep talking on this, but if you have questions, throw them in the chat and I'll be happy to answer them for you. The next thing I want to talk to you about is assuming. Like this goes along with communication. We always assume, right? We always want to assume everything. And it's really what gets us in trouble all the time. I assume that because my guy I just hired has 5 years experience, he knows how to do everything that we do. And I need like a buzzer or something where it'd be like the Family Feud, that's what I need. We assume that the materials are going to show up when they say they're going to show up. I can't tell you how many times I got screwed because I would order a door and I would schedule the door and the door delivery for first thing that morning. Like, we're gonna go install this door on Tuesday, and obviously if you're doing a door install, you have to like tear out the old door, and it takes a little bit of time for prep. And I say, hey, give me I want the first order out on Tuesday morning. Like, no problem. You get there, you're waiting for a little bit, you're getting stuff set up. Now there's not much there. The door isn't showing up yet. You're like, what's going on? And then you're like, okay, well, let's just go ahead and, get the door prepped to remove. We won't remove it until it gets here. You get the door prepped, another hour goes by, the door hasn't shown up yet. You call the vendor, it's like, hey, where's my door at? Oh, yeah, we had another project we had that was a priority. It had to go out 1 hour away in the other direction. They're on their way back now to the store, and we'll get that door loaded up and get it right out to you. You're like, how long is that going to take? It's probably going to take about another hour. You're like, what? All right. Another hour goes by. The door's still not there yet. Now, we would get upset with the vendor because they dropped the ball, right? But wouldn't it be easier to just have the door delivered the day before with instructions on where to put it at? You could just give them specific instructions. Hey, drop the door off, set it by the garage door, set it around back, set it against the fence, blah, 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 blah. Just give them specific instructions. That way you don't have to wait until the next morning and then everything falls apart. Because I've done that, like, I don't even know how many times, where the materials are supposed to be there at that time and they don't show up. Because we're trying to do like Toyota and have like just in time delivery, where as the new parts show up for the assembly line, the parts come in. That's called just in time. They don't keep a warehouse of 5,000 parts. They have new parts coming in every day, and it's just in time to be on the assembly line, right? That's how we run our business half the time. We wait until the day before. You call the vendor, hey, I need that door tomorrow. What do you mean? Well, yeah, I need that door tomorrow. We're booked up, man. We don't have any spots until next week. What do you mean? I need that door right now. Well, that's your fault because you didn't plan ahead. You didn't effectively communicate your expectations of when the door needed to be delivered, right? But with the assumptions is that I assume the door is going to show up when they say that's going to show up. I assume that the customer is going to go and pick out the materials when they're supposed to pick them out before the deadline. I'm not going to check on them. I'm not going to call and follow up with them. I'm not going to call my salesman and see if they've been in. I'm not going to do any of that. I'm just going to assume that everybody's doing what they're supposed to do, and that way I don't have to worry about it. And then it's time to put the plumbing in, and oops, you know what? They never made it to the store to order the faucet. They never picked out the faucet. No worries. I'll just call them. You got to pull up online. Okay, yeah, well, last minute, you're trying to hurry up. Last minute, yeah, this faucet works right here. Yeah, that one works. Okay, you call the plumbing supply house. Hey, I need to get this faucet. Oh, that's a special order faucet. It's not going to be in for 2 weeks. What? Go back to the customer. And then you got to pick a new faucet. Now they're upset because they really like that faucet. Well, how can we make it work? Like, I know that you guys watching this have experienced that type of stuff. I know it to be true. I've done it. I know you guys are doing it. And the whole while we're blaming everybody and everyone else that's incompetent and nobody can do their job, yet we're not doing what we should be doing to make sure that all of this stuff is happening. That's what you're getting paid for by the customer. You're getting paid by the customer to make this entire experience pain-free, or pain as little as, as pain-free as possible, and to have a great experience. That's what you're getting paid for. You're not getting paid for the physical swinging the hammer of the product. That's what most of you think you're getting paid for, but it's not what you're getting paid for. You're getting paid to make sure the job goes smoothly and everything is the way it's supposed to be. That's what you're supposed to do. That's why you get paid. And the people that have the processes and the systems and they understand this and they have a flawless process from start to finish, those are the ones that get paid extremely well. And those are the ones that get a lot of referrals too. That's how you create raving fans. Raving fans are people that will happily recommend you to everyone they know because they had such a great experience. But all in the name of it's everyone else's fault. And Jesse Landscaping said, nope, it's all your fault. Yes. Everything that happens in your business is your fault. Everything. Even when it's not your fault, it's still your fault. If you guys haven't read the book Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink, you should go read that. It's the premise of what is really your fault. And as a leader in your business, as the owner, it's everything is your fault. If you have an employee who's not showing up to work on time, he's 5 minutes late every day, and you tolerate that, and then you get mad because he shows up late, that's your fault. Because you didn't set the expectation and you didn't set the punishment. And you tolerate it. And you hired them. That's your fault. It's not your employee's fault, it's your fault. If your guys are standing around waiting for you to tell them what to do, that's your fault. Because you didn't tell them how to be proactive. Well, I shouldn't. That's all common sense, Brad. I shouldn't have to tell them how to do that. I mean, everybody knows that you're not just supposed to stand around. I'm paying them $20 an hour. They should know better. No, we don't. Why should they know better? Explain it to me. Explain to me why they should know better. They don't. That's your responsibility, and to do it effectively, to communicate to your team effectively. These are the expectations, guys. This is what I expect from you every single day. I had a I forget what I call it now. I forget the term that I called it, but I had is basically was an end of day when your day is I think it was titled when your day was over. And basically what it was is at the end of the day, these are the things that I expect you to do before you go home. When you get back to the shop, because we had company vehicles and I had to shop, when you get back to the shop before you go home, all of your receipts have to be entered into the CRM, and then they have to be turned into. I had a little file folder thing by my office door. They had to physically put the receipts in there. Before you go home at the end of the day, any trash that's in your vehicle has to be taken out. Before you go home at the end of the day, you have to clock out. Make sure you clock out and you fill out any reports that were due, depending on your position. At the end of the day, these things have to happen before you can go home. I'm defining what the end of the day completion looks like. Like that's just one little piece, guys. That's one tiny, tiny little piece of what it takes to run a business. But we think people are we're gonna run a multi-million-dollar business by just working out of our head. And we're just gonna hire people that think the same way that we think. And then all that ends up doing is frustrating the hell out of us. Because people don't think the way you think. If everybody did it the way you did it, then it would be your clone and it would drive you nuts. Plus, you don't want people to always do things the way that you do it. Because what if somebody else has more experience than you and they know a way that's 10% quicker or they know a way that's 20% cheaper? So you got to be able to breed into your team the ability to communicate back to you. Communication is not a one-way thing. Communication is a two-way thing. My team, they had the ability to say whatever they want at any point. They could bust my butt, give me a hard time, make fun of me. I didn't care. It was like a team like that. We were all equals on that playing field. If they saw a better way to do something, they could bring it up. If I said, "Hey, I want to do it this way," and they thought they knew a better way, they could say, "Wait a minute, Brad, what about this way?" And if I thought, "You know what? That's a better way," we would do that. But I created a culture where it was okay to not necessarily disagree, but to have differing opinions, because that's how you get to the best ways of doing things. But if people are too afraid to speak up because you're just like a ram it down their throat, this is how we're going to do it kind of leader, then they're never going to communicate that back with you. They're never going to tell you what they actually think. So, like, effective communication is a two-way street. Being able for them to call you out if you're doing something wrong, or if they think that you're doing something wrong, or if you're about to make a mistake, like having that level of ability to do that. That's part of effective communication. Angie says you teach people how to treat you in every aspect of life. Yeah. Yeah. So last four things here, then I'm gonna hop off here. If you guys haven't listened to my podcast that dropped today, you should go listen to it. Hammer and Grind podcast. If you're on TikTok, you can just click on my profile and get a link to it. If you guys are on Facebook or YouTube, if you're on YouTube, you can already watch the video. If you're on Facebook, you can. There should be a link if you're in the group, or if you're on the page, you can just search for the Hammer and Grind podcast, or you can go to my website, which is this the right one? No, I don't have it. Hold on a second. Where is my? Yeah, there we go. So if you guys are on Facebook or YouTube, right there, you can go to my website and also listen to the podcast there. All right, let's go back to live screen. So, last things here. If you guys have questions, start throwing them in because about 5-10 minutes we're gonna be done. So put your questions in there now. Couple takeaways, a couple tips I want to give you. How you talk to people. How you talk to people is very important. The how is the actual your tone of voice, your speed, your cadence, the actual how you're physically talking to people. If you have a really deep, heavy Southern accent, you may need to work on cleaning it up just a little bit. I'm not saying you got to change your accent. If you have a really, you know, Irish, if you're from Ireland, you have a deep Irish accent. Most people won't be able to understand you in the U.S. So you may need to clean it up just a little bit, right? If you talk super fast, then you may need to slow it down just a little bit. If you talk really slow and you think about everything you're going to say, you might need to speed it up just a little bit, right? If you're talking to someone who is an elderly person and they talk slower because they need to really think about what they're saying and they need to process what's going on. Maybe they're hard of hearing or whatever. Then you need to, and you're talking really fast like this, like, yeah, we can come in there, we can take this out, and we can do this, and we can tear that out, and we can put this in there. And they're talking slow, you're going to fry their brain. Like they can't keep up. Okay. Jesse, I'm watching you. I'm watching it. You'll be all right. Just keep working on that little kitten. All right. You just keep making cat videos. Don't worry about what I'm doing over here. I'm just messing with you, man. Yeah. So the how you talk is really important because people like them. People like them. So if you kind of talk a little bit like them, or if you talk a little the same speed and cadence, they're gonna want to naturally gravitate towards what you're saying. If you're a complete opposite, it can be a little distracting. So how you speak is very important. Also, don't use probablys and usuallys. That's not with confidence. The way you talk, if you're not ensuring confidence with your clients, or even with your team, but specifically with your clients, if they say, "Hey, we really want to get this project done by November 1st because we're having a party that weekend. We'll be able to get this done by then." And your response is, "Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think we can probably get it done by then." Does that sound confident? Like if it's really important for them to have it done by November 1st and you're saying, I think we can get it done. We should be able to get it done by then. That is not a confident answer. A confident answer would be like, Well, it's going to be tight. I'm not, I don't want to make promises I can't meet, but it's going to be very tight to meet that deadline. It is possible, but in order for us to be able to do that, we're going to have to move pretty quickly on getting you signed up, getting the deposit, and ordering the materials. Because if we don't get them ordered within the next 2 weeks, then it's going to push back our timeline. That's a confident answer, even though you may not know 100% if you're going to, be able to meet that timeline. But if you're saying probably and maybes and all that, you're definitely not going to have any confidence in what they're doing. Jesse, I believe it. I believe your kitty's the best employee you've ever had. I see your stuff. I see your videos. Um, what you say. The next one. What you say? Use open-ended questions. Anytime you're talking to people, you always want to try and use open-ended questions. Don't be direct. Don't say, you know, don't say stuff like trying to think of a close. I don't even speak in closed questions, so it's hard for me to think of a closed question. I always speak in open-ended question. Open-ended question are questions that can't be answered with yes or no. So I say like, when are you hoping to get this done? When are you hoping to get this project done? Versus, are you wanting to get this done right away? Are you wanting to get this project done right away? Yes. Well, that doesn't give me enough information. When are you hoping to get this project done? Well, we're hoping to get it done in the next 3 weeks. Right? So that's just a very dark, quick and dirty way. Always use open-ended questions. By the way, guys, everything I'm talking about again is on the podcast that dropped today. If you don't listen to it, you should. I go into much more detail on that podcast. Um, but the thing with questions too is using you want to use if then logic. So a lot of times the way we ask questions, it is to generate information to ask a follow-up question. So an if then logic question is, if they answer this, then my response is this. If I say, when are you hoping to get this done, and they say tomorrow, then I'm going to respond this way. But if they say, whenever you're available, then I'm going to respond this way. So that's an if then type of question response. If I say, when are you hoping to get this done? And they say tomorrow, and I say, well, that ain't going to happen. Good luck with that. There's no way. Thanks for calling. Well, that's just stupid. Why would I do that? Just because someone wants to has the expectation of getting it done tomorrow doesn't mean that they're going to get that delivered. Doesn't mean they're going to find that anywhere. Here's a little sidebar, guys. Just because people tell you something like their budget or their time frame or what they want done does not mean that that is what they're going to actually get. They're just telling you what they hope to get. And a lot of times contractors get butthurt because somebody says stuff to them like, "Hey, we had another estimate, and your price was $5,000 more than the other contractor. Is there any way you can come down on price, or any way you can match their price?" And you get offended by that question, or you get butthurt, and you snap back. There's no reason for that. There's absolutely no reason. They're asking you for a reason. They're asking you for clarity. If they only cared about price, they would not have even asked you. The reason that they're asking you is because they like you. If they didn't like you and the price was all that mattered, they would never even called you back. They would have just hired the guy that was cheaper. But the sole fact that they're asking you if you can match their price means they like you more. They want to hire you, but they don't understand why you're more expensive. And here's a little bonus tip for you: confused buyers do not buy. If your clients are confused about what you're going to do for them, if they're confused about why you cost so much, if they're confused about your processes, they're not going to buy, they're not going to hire you. So because someone says you're more expensive does not mean, well, good luck, hire them and don't call me back, because if you do, it's going to be twice as much. That's ignorance. That's ego married to ignorance, is what that is. I'm going to write that down. Ego married to ignorance. Sometimes I like come up with really good stuff. Ego plus ignorance. All right, it's on my whiteboard. Yeah, Jesse's like, it's your job to educate your client. 100%. 100%. This is all falls under the realm of effective communication, guys. Educating your clients is part of a part of effective communication. Not at making assumptions is part of effective communication. Handling difficult questions that they may have is part of effective communication. Um, not defending, but diffusing irate customers because you did something wrong or your team or subs did something wrong is part of effective communication, right? That is the whole thing. That's what communication is. So what you say and how you say it are the first two. The second one is when you speak. This is pretty easy. The only time you should ever be talking to a client is if you're asking them a question to gain more data, because everything that we're doing is gaining data, is getting data, or you're answering a question they have. That's the only time you're speaking. You shouldn't be speaking about how awesome you are. You shouldn't be speaking about the nomenclature of the ceiling fan that you recommend, right? Like none of that crap. You should only be talking when you're asking them a question to get more data or you're answering their question. We have what I call the grandma rule. You have 2 ears and one mouth for a reason. You should be listening at least twice as much as you're talking. That's also what we call really more effectively is a 70-30 rule, which is your customer should be talking 70% of the time and you're talking 30% of the time. But Brad, how can I tell them how amazing I am and how can I sell them on how great I am if I'm not talking? That's because you don't do that. You don't sell people on how great you are. You get them to talk and you understand what's important to them and then you address and label we call label their emotions, and they can understand that you fully understand what's important to them, and the fact that you've now connected with them on an emotional level is why they will hire you. People buy based on emotions and they use logic to justify it. They buy based on emotion and they use logic to justify it. But you guys try to sell logic. You're trying to sell them on logic. I've been doing this 25 years. That's logic. I am the best out there. That's logic. We use high quality materials. That's logic. We can get to you in the time frame that you want. That's all logic based answers. It's not emotion. How is having the highest quality materials going to affect my life? What's the benefit to me of using high quality materials? What's the benefit to me of, why you charge more? What's the benefit to me of waiting an extra 6 months to hire you? Those are emotion. What's the benefit? Why should I hire you? So when you start learning how to speak to emotion, which you get to emotion by asking questions, which gives you the data that you need. I mean, basically, if you want to shortcut this, you're a psychiatrist. You should be a psychiatrist to your clients and figure out what the motivation is for them. What's the underlying issue? Why are they doing this project? Why is this project important to them? What's the most important part of this project? What's their expectations? What expectations do they have for this project? Most of you guys never ask those questions. You ask scope of work questions. What type of countertop do you want? What type of plants do you like? What color shingles do you want? What type of fence do you prefer? We're asking scope of work questions because we think that's all we need. No, it's not. It's not. When it comes to sales, it has nothing to do with scope of work. I could sell a $30,000 project to someone and not once talk about scope of work. And people don't understand that. They just can't fathom that. because it's not about the scope, it's about the emotion. When you learn how to do that, you become a great salesman. And that's when you can start selling jobs for a lot of money. So that's the when you speak, why you speak. Um, you know, like I said, you should be gaining more information, not to puke knowledge on them. Why that's why you're speaking. I got that backwards. Sorry. I was looking at my notes. When you speak, when you're actually speaking, you should not be quick to solve problems. Okay. You don't want to be a problem solver for them. You're not going to blow them away with your expertise. So when you actually speaking, it's because you're trying to get the information, right? You're not speaking to impress them. Just looking at some last comments and questions here. So, guys, real quick to kind of not justify, to recap. Don't make assumptions when you're talking to people. Somebody calls you from a certain zip code or a certain area code or whatever, just because it's the poor part of town. Don't just make an assumption and then blow them off. You don't know the story. You don't know what's going on. Yeah, Benjamin's like says you're trying to diagnose it like a doctor. Yeah, same with like a psychiatrist. You're trying to figure out what's important to them. Peel back the onion, right? Peel it back till you get to the main issue that's going on. Uh, don't make assumptions. I didn't talk about being professional, but we kind of did in a halfway way. If someone's like, "Hey, there's somebody can do it cheaper," I'm not going to be unprofessional and give a stupid response of, "Well, then you should then call them, but don't call me back." That's unprofessional, and it's not necessary. How you speak, that's about the physical way you talk, the cadence. We call cadence. It's like how fast you're doing it, the spirit of the conversation. If you're talking to the CEO of a major corporation, you're not going to be joking around with them a lot. They're going to be a much more serious person, more than likely. If I'm talking to a younger person who maybe is, like, I don't know, they're an artist, they're going to be more like emotional, like a little more free with what they say. If I'm talking to a guy who's in a, Hell's Angel biker gang, I'm probably not going to joke around with him. Like, be smart about who you're talking to and know your audience. That's how you talk to them. What you say to them is open-ended questions. When you're speaking, you're not there to solve problems. You're there to ask questions. You're not trying to solve problems when you're talking to them. And then why you speak is to gain information or to answer questions. So those are the four things. If you guys haven't listened to the podcast, go listen to it. I go much deeper into these things, and it should help you out with effective communication. But the biggest takeaway is you really need to become an over communicator. Over communication is never bad, ever. Telling your guys how to do something that they already know how to do is always better than not communicating something because you assume and then they end up doing it wrong. And even I can tell you a story about one of my clients who had his guy build a little porch, and he's like, usually I would just draw out a little diagram so we're on the same page, but he's pretty smart. And I said, you know how we're doing it, right? And he's like, yeah, I got it. I understand. We're gonna make it to this certain height to the bottom, and he misunderstood. He made it a certain height to one point, but my client was talking about a certain height to another point, and they weren't on the same page. But it was all out of the reason why it didn't go further is because my client, the contractor, wasn't trying to insult his intelligence because the other guy thought he knew what he was talking about. You got two people who think they're talking about the same thing and they're talking about two different things. And that's where effective communication comes in and helps to break that down. If he had a diagram that showed the actual height, then there wouldn't be an issue. The guy would have been like, "Oh, you meant 84 inches to the bottom. I thought you meant 84 inches to the top." Because now you have a diagram that shows that. All of that is part of effective communication. So, all right, guys, that's all I got for today. Thanks for hanging out with me. If you got any more questions, you can always shoot me a message. Make sure you follow me on the different platforms. And if you guys want help with your sales, I do have a couple different programs. If you want help in your business, I can definitely help you with that. In my Profit Club, we talk about the Contractor Profit Blueprint. If you're on TikTok, you guys are in Facebook already should know what that is. If you're wanting help in your business, if you're wanting to explode your profits, if you're wanting to get off the tools, if you're looking for ways to scale your business, shoot me a message. We can always jump on a quick call and just talk about it and see if it's something I can help you with. More than happy to do that. Otherwise, guys, appreciate you hanging out, and I'll see you on the next live, if not before. See you.